And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Westeros to be born? It's time we discuss the anomalous creature from the disturbing vision Daenerys Targaryen experiences in her time with the Undying Ones. Is it a monster we have yet to see, or more symbolic of a person? But before we get into the theories, please do me the honor of liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications. And now, on with the video. In the Clash of Kings, Daenerys Targaryen is invited to visit Qarth, an ancient port city located on the southern coast of Essos. Qarth is described by the warlock Pyat Pree as the greatest city that ever was or ever will be. Daenerys herself considers Qarth to be a city of splendors. Dany's goal in Qarth is to secure the main resources necessary in her quest to retake the Iron Throne, mainly the acquisition of an army and an armada to ferry them to Westeros. Her appeals are denied by the Pureborn, who are more interested in seeing her dragons in person than they are in lending her aid. They are also denied by the 13, a prominent group of merchant princes. Xaro Xhoan, a member of the 13 and the closest thing to an ally Dany has in Qarth, also refuses to use his vast wealth to assist her in reclaiming her rightful throne. What he wants is to trick her into giving him one of her dragons. Out of desperation, Dany seeks help from the Undying Ones, the reclusive blue-lipped warlocks who reside in the great ancient ruin known as the House of the Undying. Before she's permitted entry, Dany is given Shade of the Evening to drink. This elixir, known as the Wine of Warlocks, will open her mind to help her better receive the visions she can expect to experience upon meeting the Undying Ones. After a dizzy descent through the house where Dany sees many strange and horrifying things, she arrives in the audience chamber of the fabled and feared warlocks. The decrepit state of the magic users initially leads Dany to believe the Undying Ones are all dead. So, it is a shock when they speak to her. Daenerys tells the warlocks she has come seeking the truth. One of the central conflicts of A Song of Ice and Fire is not good versus evil, but rather the truth versus lies. The advice she is given, if it can be counted for advice at all, encourages Dany to do things she doesn't understand. Drink from the cup of ice. Drink from the cup of fire. Daenerys cannot make sense of it, and there seems to be some magical influence taking hold of her, limiting her movement, her speech, her ability to think. The warlocks speak of 3 mounts, 3 treasons, 3 fires. When Daenerys requests clarity, the Undying Ones bombard her with a series of psychic visions. Among the visions, we are treated to this, quote, "Glowing like the sunset, a red sword was raised in the hand of a blue-eyed king who cast no shadow. A cloth dragon swayed on poles amidst a cheering crowd. From a smoking tower, a great stone beast took wing, breathing shadow fire. Mother of dragons, slayer of lies." End quote. This vision has baffled readers ever since A Clash of Kings was published all those decades ago. There are no creatures in this series that match the description of the anomalous entity. Let's explore the passage in full detail in search of further clues. Quote,
Viserys screamed as the molten gold ran down his cheeks and filled his mouth. A tall lord with copper skin and silver gold hair stood beneath the banner of a fiery stallion. A burning city behind him. Rubies flew like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince, and he sank to his knees in the water and with his last breath murmured a woman's name. "Mother of dragons, daughter of death." Her silver was trotting through the grass to a darkling stream beneath a sea of stars. A corpse stood at the prow of a ship, eyes bright in his dead face, grey lips smiling sadly. A blue flower grew from a chink in a wall of ice and filled the air with sweetness. "Mother of dragons, bride of fire."
End quote. There are 3 sequences of visions. These sequences are each capped with Daenerys being labeled something new each time. Daughter of Death, Slayer of Lies, Bride of Fire. The Great Stone Beast is the third vision in the second sequence. Perhaps there is a pattern in how the visions are being delivered. This pattern might help us understand what the beast is or represents. The third vision in the first sequence is of a dying prince with rubies flying like blood from his chest. This is no doubt Rhaegar Targaryen dying from the wound delivered by Robert Baratheon during their duel on the Trident. The woman's name he mutters in his last breath must be Lyanna. The third vision in the last sequence is of a blue flower growing within a flaw in a wall of ice. The smell of the flower fills the air with sweetness. Blue roses were favorites of Lyanna Stark. Rhaegar Targaryen famously presented her with a crown of blue roses during the tourney at Harrenhal, where he proclaimed her his queen of love and beauty. That was the day the smiles died, the prelude to war and woe. The wall of ice in the vision must refer to the wall in the north, which stands against the return of the others. The most popular theory in A Song of Ice and Fire history is that Jon Snow is the true-born son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen. If true, the blue flower in this vision represents Jon Snow and his presence at the wall. Quote, "He was walking through the crypts beneath Winterfell, as he had walked 1,000 times before. The kings of winter watched him pass with eyes of ice, and the direwolves at their feet turned their great stone heads and snarled. Last of all, he came to the tomb where his father slept, with Brandon and Lyanna beside him. 'Promise me, Ned,' Lyanna's statue whispered. She wore a garland of pale blue roses, and her eyes wept blood." End quote. This comes from an Eddard chapter in Book 1. The third vision in the sequence may yet again refer to Rhaegar, Lyanna, and Jon. This would mean the only consistent pattern in the visions is that the third vision refers to Rhaegar, Lyanna, and Jon. The great stone beast is said to be rising from the ruins of a smoking tower. Eddard Stark found his sister Lyanna dying in her bed of blood in a tower along the Dornish marches. Rhaegar called it the Tower of Joy. Eddard pulled down the tower to build cairns for all those that died on the day he and his men confronted the 3 Kingsguard who remained at the tower to protect it. The Tower of Joy could also be the smoking tower from the vision. The stone beast breathing shadow fire could be a dragon, but its identity has been covered up, just like Jon Snow's identity as Rhaegar and Lyanna's true-born son has been covered up by Eddard Stark. This is why Daenerys does not recognize it for what it is, a dragon. Because Martin was incredibly vague with the description of the stone beast, it could be any manner of flying creature. A great stone winged horse, a winged pig, or even a winged lion. But there's only one creature in this series that flies and breathes fire: dragons. It inclines one to believe the great stone beast is also a dragon, either literally or figuratively. Also in A Clash of Kings, Jojen Reed shares with Prince Brandon Stark a dream he once had of the three-eyed crow. Quote, "My brother dreams as other boys do, and those dreams might mean anything," Mira said, "but the green dreams are different." Jojen's eyes were the color of moss, and sometimes when he looked at you, he seemed to be seeing something else. Like now. "I dreamed of a winged wolf bound to earth with gray stone chains," he said. "It was a green dream, so I knew it was true. A crow was trying to peck through the chains, but the stone was too hard and his beak could only chip at them." End quote. The winged wolf is quite obviously Bran. The direwolf is the sigil of House Stark. Bran even has a direwolf companion of his own named Summer. Jojen's dreams demonstrates it is possible that characters can be represented in dreams and visions as fantastic creatures. And note, the chains that hold Bran are made of stone, not metal. The children of the forest do not work with metal. The vision of the stone beast occurs in the sequence where Daenerys is named Slayer of Lies after the blue-eyed king with no shadow and the cloth dragon. Daenerys may play a part in revealing Jon Snow's true parentage. Now let's consider literal interpretations of the theory that the stone beast in the vision is a creature made of living stone. Melisandre, in her desperate attempts to see the Azor Ahai prophecy realized, pleads with Lord Stannis Baratheon to allow her to burn his nephew Edric Storm. Edric, being the son of the late King Robert, has king's blood. Once consigned to the flames as an offering to R'hllor, a stone dragon, perhaps one of the many on Dragonstone, would come to life. To quote a Davos chapter from A Storm of Swords, "It would be a wondrous thing to see stone come to life, and to mount a dragon, dragon wings over Westeros." End quote. But Sir Davos interrupts Stannis' revelries to protect the boy Edric. Stannis too seems to believe the statue of a stone dragon would be given life should he execute his nephew, a great stone beast. However, Sir Davos makes an interesting observation while admiring the stone dragon statues on the Targaryen island fastness. Quoting from Storm, "If the Red Woman brings them to life, the castle will come crashing down, I am thinking. What kind of dragons are full of rooms, and stairs, and furniture, and windows, and chimneys, and privy shafts?" End quote. It seems with this passage, Martin is urging the reader to think carefully, dropping a not-so-subtle hint for those that might not have caught on to Melisandre's fallible nature. The writer is encouraging the reader to be skeptical. Melisandre is more than likely wrong in her assumption that the sacrifice of Edric Storm would bring the statue of a stone dragon to life. Melisandre misinterpreted the prophecy, which is unsurprising considering it's Melisandre. It is very unlikely that a statue of a literal stone dragon will be coming to life. Further beyond Skagos is the Shivering Sea, where sailors have been known to report sightings of ice dragons. These cold creatures are said to be much larger than their Valyrian cousins, and instead of breathing fire, they breathe ice. Their bodies are made of blocks of ice, and when they die, they melt away like dew. This has made it nigh impossible to find proof of their existence. The question is, could the great stone beast in the vision actually be a dragon made of ice and not stone? Is the shadow fire actually the cold breath of death? Perhaps the show, having Viserion turned into a blue eyes white dragon, was more accurate to the books than we could have ever known. Maybe the stone beast is an ice dragon or an undead dragon. The question then would be, how is a literal ice dragon or an undead one alive for Daenerys to slay? It will remain a possibility, but not one I would wager on. But because the vision is so mysterious, we must keep our options open. Some have theorized the great stone beast may well be a dragon that has survived to the present of the story. A Targaryen dragon, a very old one, could be due to make a reappearance. The main culprit is the dragon called the Cannibal. It is thought the Cannibal is still alive and living on the island of Skagos, which is fitting because the name Skagos in the Old Tongue means stone. Is this a hint the great stone beast resides on the island? This is unfortunately an impossibility. Balerion was over 200 years old at the time of his death. The Cannibal would be over 270 years old if it was somehow still alive. The dragons in A Song of Ice and Fire are not invincible or immortal. They can be killed. They can die. The Cannibal would have died of old age just as Balerion did. It should be noted that Balerion in his later years grew to be very sluggish and difficult to rouse. His last rider, King Viserys, the first Targaryen, when he mounted the dragon for the first time, he had plans to fly him to Dragonstone, but he was only able to circle the dragon around the city 3 times before bringing him down. He sensed the dragon could not make the long journey. The cannibal might not be able to fly if it was still alive. At least it would not be capable of vigor like the great stone beast appeared to be in the vision. Unless the cannibal is given new life by the others. A far-fetched idea, but again, our options remain open. But it is very unlikely that a dragon managed to exist in Westeros for all this time without people taking notice of it. Are we to believe the people of Skagos are tending to a dying dragon? Now let's move on to the 2 theories that are figurative interpretations of the vision. Some have theorized the vision refers to Lord Jon Connington. Once Hand of the King for Aerys Targaryen, he now serves as Hand of the boy who claims to be Aegon, son of Rhaegar. After saving Tyrion from a man infected with greyscale, Jon Connington finds himself infected with the disease. There is a bitter irony in a man who played the role as Hand for 2 kings finding one of his hands infected by greyscale. But it is said the gods make japes of us all. Connington chooses to hide his condition so he doesn't seek treatment. He also decides not to remove his infected limb. Instead, he chooses to allow the disease to take over him, and which in time, it will kill him. His only goal is to put the boy called Aegon on the throne, and then he can die in peace. He will, in time, turn to stone. The sigil of his house is a dancing griffin. Griffins are creatures that are said to have the body, tail, and back legs of a lion and the wings of an eagle. Perhaps the stone beast is Connington spreading a plague of greyscale over Westeros. Daenerys does see a statue of a stone griffin when in Qarth. Quote, all the colors that had been missing from Vaes Toloro had found their way to Qarth. Buildings crowded about her, fantastical as a fever dream, in shades of rose, violet, and umber. She passed under an arch fashioned in the likeness of 2 snakes mating, their scales delicate flakes of jade, obsidian, and lapis lazuli. Slim towers taller than any Dany had ever seen, and elaborate fountains filled every square, wrought in the shapes of griffins and dragons and manticores. End quote. Griffins, dragons, and manticores can be found in the sigils of enemies to House Targaryen. One major issue with the Jon Con theory we must address is that griffins do not breathe fire, shadow, or otherwise. Griffins do not appear to be very large in size either. Greyscale is also a disease that slowly kills an individual over time. There is a faster spreading form of the disease called the Grey Plague, but those who have greyscale are immune to that variant, which means Jon Connington could not be a host of Grey Plague. The vision of the Great Stone Beast suggests destruction on a large scale. The Stone Beast promises a fiery end for those that encounter it. That's not representative of a slow-spreading disease. Others have theorized the Great Stone Beast is Euron Greyjoy. But the Greyjoy seem to be represented by the corpse attached to the ship. This ship is surely the Silence, and this corpse is surely Euron Greyjoy, who, despite smiling sadly, is not having a good time. This is all but confirmed in the Winds of Winter sample chapter called The Forsaken. Euron is not on his way to Daenerys. No, he is not the Dusky Woman or Daario Naharis. And if Aeron's own Shade of the Evening induced visions are to be believed, Euron will more than likely be joining Cersei in King's Landing. To quote from The Forsaken, he saw his brother on the Iron Throne again, but Euron was no longer human. He seemed more squid than man, a monster fathered by a kraken of the deep, his face a mass of writhing tentacles. Beside him stood a shadow in woman's form, long and tall and terrible, her hands alive with pale white fire. End quote. The woman is likely Cersei Lannister. The fire flowing from her hands are due to her involvement in the Wildfire Plot and the destruction of the Great Sept of Baelor. But this is not the first time that someone has witnessed Euron in a vision. Moqorro has glimpsed him in his flames as well. To quote a Tyrion chapter from A Dance with Dragons, "Have you seen these others in your fires?" he asked warily. "Only their shadows," Moqorro said. "One most of all, a tall and twisted thing with one black eye and 10 long arms, sailing on a sea of blood." End quote. In both these visions, Euron is seen as an aquatic horror, a Lovecraftian nightmare, which is no doubt why fans think he's going to try to turn himself into a Cthulhu-like eldritch god being. But the imagery in these visions do not match the one Dany saw. Moqorro was even careful to take note of Euron's one eye. A great stone beast is not representative of who Euron is or who he's attempting to become. Wherever visions come from, whatever realm that may be, Euron has a consistent style. It's horrific, but it's at least consistent. There's one final theory on the Great Stone Beast I would like to discuss before I close out this video. What if the creature is something brought forth into the world by Melisandre? In A Dance with Dragons, Melisandre revels in her newfound powers at the wall. She says, quote, "She was stronger at the wall, stronger even than in Asshai. Her every word and gesture was more potent, and she could do things that she had never done before. Such shadows as I bring forth here will be terrible, and no creature of the dark will stand before them. With such sorceries at her command, she should soon have no more need of the feeble tricks of alchemists and pyromancers." End quote. The Great Stone Beast breathes shadow fire in the vision. A stone dragon off of Dragonstone might not be given life, but what if Melisandre tries to conjure something else to force the prophecy to come true? Daenerys' vision feels apocalyptic, biblical in a way, but are the visions a warning for the world or warnings for her? Of death and danger she has experienced before and will experience in the future of the story. Greyscale, Euron, the cannibal, these don't seem very specific to Daenerys Targaryen herself. Jon Snow does. Jon Snow presents one of the greatest threats to Daenerys and her plans to rule Westeros. His claim is stronger than hers as he is the only surviving true-born son of her brother, Prince Rhaegar. If Daenerys does indeed go mad, it will fall on Jon to stop her. He was born in a tower that was torn down. His identity was concealed, and like the stone chains that bound Bran, stone covers who he really is. A dragon. The shadow fire he breathes might not be the destruction of Westeros, but the destruction of the kingdom Daenerys has built in all of her hopes and dreams. And that's it for now. The Great Stone Beast is a mystery that is not often discussed within the fandom, which is no surprise. There is not a lot of obvious evidence to work with. The natural inclination is to take the vision literally, which is what I did in my original theory video. My original theory video on the Stone Beast was that the beast was Drogon. My reason for thinking this: Daenerys' dragons are literally stone beasts brought to life. If the word shadow is often associated with death, then dragons are creatures with armor like tenfold shields. Their teeth are swords, and their breath, death. I thought that even the mother of dragons might be confused by seeing one of her children as a living, breathing creature of stone. But in revisiting the theory, I noticed that the No Shadow King and Cloth Dragon visions are about people. That led me to believe the Great Stone Beast might just be the same. Still, I have to admit, I'm not as confident in my conclusion as I am with my other theories. I'm not overly concerned with being 100% right about what I theorize, but I wish I could walk away from this with the feeling I found something more profound in the text to support all I have discussed. The Great Stone Beast could be a figurative dragon like Jon. It could be a literal one like the Cannibal or Drogon. It could be an ice dragon or an undead dragon. maybe it will be something surprising, something that will completely catch us off guard. Who can say? Martin did us a disservice by not describing what the Great Stone Beast looks like. Which is why, for now, I am content with letting the mystery be. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, it's time to call the banners. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below telling me what you think or who you think the Great Stone Beast is. My thanks to the following patrons and channel members. Don't forget to ring that bell to turn on notifications and also to wake Daenerys up. The Undying Ones are trying to steal her life force. Again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.